All right. So we're back here with the 309 Punk Project's big old fundraiser, our marathon fundraiser, and we are so honored to have Maggot Sandwich here. This has been something I've wanted to do for a long time. I really wanted to have an interview with y'all, not just for this fundraiser, of course, but been listening to Maggot Sandwich for years and years and years. So this is, it's a great opportunity. So I thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into it. All right. So I'm going to ask you the biggest question in the world for any punk, the one that every punk hates to answer, but maybe secretly loves to answer. How do you define punk?
What'd you say, Steve?
Oh, it's just kind of a sound and an attitude and something like that.
No.
But it's mostly the sound with me.
Okay. All right.
What do you think, Eric?
It's about freedom to me. Yeah, it's open.
Total freedom. Yeah.
I know we were playing the music they called punk before they called it punk.
Mhm.
And the original motivation behind the people who started calling us punks was to insult us.
Mhm.
And they wanted us to try to be like Joe Satriani and not smash out bar chords. You know, where Steve and I grew up in Massachusetts, our instructors were heavily involved with the Berklee School of Music, and they were fascinated by what they did, by what we did. And when it became really popular and people loved us, they started calling us punk because it was an insult.
Mhm.
And at first we took it as an insult, and then we started selling all these records and having all these people come see us, and then we started going, oh yeah, punk, that's fine. But to us, it was the hard rock that we were like following up MC5 and Blue Cheer and the Stones and the Who, and the stuff that we grew up on was pretty punk. You know, Satisfaction by the Stones was a pretty punk rock song to me.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely an attitude too. So even outside of any,
and of course, no one was calling it punk at that point, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
And when they first started calling us that, we didn't like it very much.
Mhm. Well, so how did Maggot Sandwich form?
So Steve and I have been playing since we were little kids. I moved to Pensacola in the late 70s, and in 81, he moved here.
Mhm.
The people that he and I played with in Massachusetts turned into a band called the Vegetables after I left, and the Vegetables were hugely successful.
Mhm.
A #1 song on WBCN in Boston, the commercial station.
Yeah.
And when he moved down to Florida in 1981, he and I started trying out bass players and started playing and really started writing the material that is Maggot Sandwich still.
So when you, so why'd you move to Pensacola?
I married a girl from Pensacola
Okay,
who I went to school with in Massachusetts. Like, her mom lived in Westboro, Massachusetts, where we were from, and her dad lived in Pensacola.
Uh-huh.
When we got married, he gave us a trailer home in the trailer park that he owned in Pensacola, and we moved here.
Oh, okay.
And I went to UWF, and it was so much cheaper to live here than in Massachusetts, and so much nicer that I didn't realize I was going to stay forever until I was here for a little while, and then I didn't want to leave.
I only thought I'd be here for 6 months, and that was in 1995.
Right.
So.
and like, who knew Pensacola was here or anywhere else? And like, where we grew up in Massachusetts, Florida was Miami and Orlando and the Space Coast, stuff like that. But we love it here. We always have.
Well, so what was the punk scene like, though? So I know loving it here and coming over here is different than getting involved with the punk scene. So what was the punk scene like when you first got here?
When I first got here, I'd go out to Machine Gun Kelly's and to the Handlebar and to McGuigan's Speakeasy to see if anybody good was playing at any of them. And sometimes it would be somebody, like I saw REM before they were famous at McGuigan's Speakeasy. Handlebar, my favorite band there was like Beach Monkeys.
You're the only person who's told me that you saw REM, because I keep hearing about this legendary show, but I haven't known anybody who actually went.
I actually bought their 12-inch from them and still have it. The one with the great something about wolves. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a 12-inch EP, and it's the best thing they ever put out. But they were off the walls. They were great. Having already been in punk rock scenes, to me, that wasn't the punk rock band or a punk rock show, but I really liked them. It was a band from South Georgia called the Rakes, who were regulars at McGuigan Speakeasy who were great.
Uh-huh.
They were just a great hard rock, Southern rock band.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't know if there was what I would call a punk scene until the all ages shows started. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, it kind of materialized slowly because that show at McGuigan's he was talking about, that was the first show I saw coming to Pensacola around that time. So I didn't know who REM was or the Rakes or anyone, but we were just looking to see what was out there and looking for a bass player. And we found one the first year and started up from there. But yeah, it just kind of happened slow because the band just started forming back when we started doing all ages shows, and then bands would come out of the woodwork and last for a little while and then be gone. That was kind of the scene in Pensacola.
When we started putting on our own shows, not at bars that were all ages shows, the crowd grew exponentially. It suddenly then became a punk rock scene that people that liked punk rock were packing the shows. I think the first big one was Agnostic Front at the Mix.
Oh yeah.
In 1985. That was probably the big, what seemed to me to be like a punk rock scene show with touring punk bands playing all originals, not cover bands.
Yeah.
All ages, all the biggest shows we've ever played were really all ages shows, not at bars.
So was that the first show that you put on? Was the Agnostic Front one?
Yeah.
Well, because it's easy to see just by looking at the flyers, just a pre-Maggot sandwich and a post-Maggot sandwich time. And I have to say that the pre-Maggot sandwich time almost doesn't seem to exist, as far as the record, at least, when I'm looking at flyers and I'm looking at everything else that goes along with it, because when we see that, then from really the Agnostic Front show on, then your names are stamped on everything. And prior to that, to be honest, I can't think of too many flyers, things that people saved afterwards. But they saved those flyers.
And we played quite a few times at the Handlebar before that, but it was like you had to play 3 45-minute sets a night, 2 nights in a row back then to play the Handlebar. So you had to play, we had 1 45-minute set of originals, so we had to play 2 sets of covers. And so it wasn't really a Maggot sandwich show. Most of the people that frequented there didn't like us. We were too hard and nasty for them. When we started playing the all ages show and the kids could come, that's who liked what we were doing.
Yeah. So how hard was it to get people to come to the shows?
Not at all.
Yeah.
We were shocked at, of course there was no computer. We had a mailing list. We had people in Mobile and people in Panama City that we'd send posters to every show, and they'd post them at the record. We had a big contingent of Mobile people that would come over. People that come over from Fort Walton and Panama City and down from Alabama. And we were shocked at how it, both with the sales of our records and cassettes, which, we sold cassettes, and when we made enough money, we put out our first record. We made enough money putting out 7 inches that we put out a 12-inch. But it was always from the growth of word of mouth. From what we were doing, because there really wasn't internet. There were magazines like Maximum Rock and Roll, but not a lot of people in the South read them. And people all over the world knew us more than people in Pensacola did, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and we made a lot of flyers back then.
Well, that explains why we have so many of them too. And it's amazing, actually, that they still exist. Because I know when you were making them, that you probably didn't expect us to have them. How many years ago was that? 35 years later?
Right. And when you mentioned flyers, the only flyer I have is like one Beach Monkeys flyer from the McGuigan's before we started doing it. That's the only, because I like to collect things. I find them on a barroom floor when you leave or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just have one Beach Monkeys. Yeah.
Honestly, I can't think of too many that we have. We have maybe just a couple from a few art places here and there, but really not too many. And I'm not lying too when I say that there seems to be a real pre-Maggot sandwich and a post-Maggot sandwich Pensacola punk scene. So the seeds you planted just blew up.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool. Because he moved back to town a couple of years ago, and then last year we got the band back together and got Eric.
Hey.
He was nice enough to join us, and he's a great fit, good bass player.
So Eric, did you play before with, I guess you didn't play with them before, but were you in other bands before?
Yeah, I was in several bands. But before I hang from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, I was in that band for a while. I was in a band here called Dark Star Coven with Shane Renaud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Kimbrell.
And, these fine gentlemen asked me to come play with them, so why not?
Yeah, right.
So I lived in New Orleans for 5 years. There was a huge punk resurgence and a great club in New Orleans called Siberia, which we had regular gigs at. And for 5 years, I lived over there and played with a couple of pro musicians who we considered lifetime members of Maggot Sandwich. When we play shows with the Unnaturals, they're both in the Unnaturals now. Bass player Jen and the drummer Bill. The drummer Bill grew up listening to Steve playing drums. And when I moved to New Orleans, he knew every one of our songs, had all of our records. He plays in a band called the Pallbearers, who are a legendary New Orleans band. So the 5 years that I was there, I had a blast, and the scene kind of ended as fast as it started, the big 80s resurgence. And it ended probably about 2017, maybe. And Siberia has closed and doesn't exist anymore. And so I moved back, and me and Steve, I've known Eric for a long time, and he has said to me several times, "You ever need a bass player? You ever need a bass player?" I moved back here, and I call him, and I go, "You live in Pensacola?" Yep. I go, "Yes." All right. So he was the only person we called.
Were you able to get the mask?
Unbelievable fit.
Were you able to get the mask though?
It's hard to do the shows right now. We played at Rodeo Rock, and it was a blast.
Yeah.
A whole lot of people showed up, and it was fun, but it's a tough time to get shows right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. But this will end. This will pass soon.
Yeah, soon, hopefully.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
Well, so y'all have done about 1 billion shows, and it's probably hard to pick and choose your favorites, but I'll ask you anyway. What was your favorite show? Either one that you played in or one that you went to?
Steve?
I think when we opened for the Dead Kennedys in New Orleans, that was an exciting night. And plus they broke their foot pedal halfway through, and they look at me, "Go get your pedal." And I had already packed it in the van. I went digging through the box and came running up with my pedals. And after they were done, I had to go up and retrieve my pedal. So I got to say hey to all of them. So that was fun.
So the historians in New Orleans say that was the pinnacle of the New Orleans punk scene, and the biggest attended punk rock show they ever had in New Orleans was us and the Dead Kennedys at a place called 601 Chapatulas, which is so huge. It's now 3 clubs, the space that used to be in the place that was this one. It wasn't really a club. It was a place where they had like Mardi Gras balls and stuff. I think a couple thousand people capacity. And it was a giant, incredible show. And to have the Dead Kennedys sitting on the balcony to our right watching us play, we played kind of unbelievable. Adrenaline, unbelievable.
Right, that went good.
That went really well. How about you? What's your favorite show that you ever played?
That I ever played,
including with the Hillbilly Hellcats all over fucking Europe and shit.
Probably my favorite show would probably be Berlin, playing with the Hellcats.
Okay.
Different audience than what you're used to, and it was cool. Really liked it.
Had you been there before?
Eric played bass with the Hillbilly Hellcats, by the way.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yes. Yeah. So the Dead Kennedys show is tied for me with the Bad Brains. Getting to meet the Bad Brains and getting to sit around and talk to them before we played with them at the Night Owl in Pensacola. Probably the biggest show at the Night Owl we ever played. It was packed to the walls. And getting to meet them, of all the famous people that I've ever met, was probably the biggest thrill to me, because I probably admire their music the most.
Yeah.
And I was so blown away and changed by their music when I first heard them. The tightness and the intricacy and the way they wrote. I think I would have to be the Bad Brains to meet and open for the Bad Brains.
Wow. Yeah. That's one of those other legendary shows too, that people talk about all the time, so
yeah, there was none better ever in Pensacola than that show.
Well, it's hard for me to really understate or overstate how important your band was here locally in Pensacola, but then also just culturally, I'll say here at 309, just like I was telling you in some of those text messages back and forth, that for all of the events that we had here at 309, not to say like events, but really just potlucks, gatherings, friends, and all the stuff, people getting together. I can't think of one where somebody didn't break out, get off the stage. Somebody's just breaking this out, just putting it on. Everybody's running around the room and stuff with it. It was such a popular record here at the house.
Yeah.
And it just has this long impact, with people. And then what's amazing too is of all the other bands, from not just Pensacola, but also, all the bands that we've mentioned, that you're still around. You're still around. You're still playing. So, what's your secret?
It's still fun to smash out rock and roll.
Yeah.
I think Steve and I were kind of born to play music.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a concert violinist and a big band leader.
Okay.
I remember when I realized maybe in 3rd or 4th grade that other people didn't know how to read music, because like we showed up for 1st grade knowing how to read, write, and read music. We were in a musical family. My mom could sit down at a piano and play concertos from memory, sitting in the living room. She was horrified by what we decided to play. It was equally horrified by our success with it.
You didn't play it anymore for her?
No. But we love to play music, and we're going to do it as long as we're alive, probably.
And another quick story too. My mother hated what we were doing in junior high school. We played for the whole school. We did an Alice Cooper show the last day of school. They had to play. The anti-drug club would do their play, then they'd have this and that announcements. And they let us play, and we got up there and rocked out the school.
We played out the rest of the school day on the stage.
I don't know how good it was, but
we did it.
That was in
It
junior
was
high?
half Alice Cooper show and half covers.
like
Rolling Stones.
And Chuck Berry. Yeah, we loved doing it then too. And they couldn't believe young kids would jump up there and play for their whole school, but we were practiced up pretty much.
I think Eric's probably a lifer. He can play guitar as good as me. He can sing, he can lead sing. Bass playing, we're so lucky that he loves our music and likes to play with us. He's an incredible bass player. And I don't think he's going to ever stop making music of all sorts. Music runs through his veins.
Yeah, I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
Just where it is.
So my last question for you is, what we're doing here at 309 is we're helping to archive a lot of this history. And, we think it's important for a number of different reasons. So I'm curious, what do y'all think about this history? Why do you think that this is important?
Well, it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad it's documented, and we're thrilled that people liked what we did.
Yeah.
Because I think if we had stayed in Massachusetts, we would have been another dime a dozen band. But when we came to Florida, no one was playing like we were. But I ended up in punk bands in the 70s just because I could drum fast, and they'd go, "He's a fast drummer, get him to fill in." And that's how I kind of jumped in with bands, mostly around Worcester, Mass, and Westboro. So we only played Boston twice.
Okay.
But then when that band disbanded, he's like, "Get down to Florida. I got a spare room for you."
Well, before I let you go, I want to play some of your stuff really quickly. I'm going to try and do the screen share, see how well I pull this off. Let's see if I got it.
How many people in this video started another band in Pensacola?
Yeah.
How many people in that slam band? The Stanton brothers. Everybody's in that slam band.
You said the Stanton brothers are in this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let me see.
Scott and Kent were always there at the shows. And that 87 video, the people who were in that, everybody, that was so many bands.
Let me see. Hold on. It's not coming up. Hold on just a second. Oh, let me see. Oh, it's not. It's not letting me share it.
Oh, well.
I got the wrong button.
You'll be able to cut this out and do it when you do the
Well, you know what? Oh, hold on. Let me get back in there. The full screen. We don't need to see all these papers here I'm writing. Right? Where is this? Stop sharing. There we go. All right. Get to see the letter I'm writing there. No, I tell you what, I'm going to open up the set with the first video, and then I'll come back with the second one. So we'll be able to see it without me having to mess around on the screen.
Okay.
Here. Okay. All right. Well, do y'all have anything you want to add to this?
I think we're good, but thank you very much. We take it as a huge compliment.
This is
that you even wanted to talk to us crazy old dudes.
Right. Thank you. We appreciate all the good words from everybody.
Yeah.
We really can't tell you how much of an honor this is for us, so
thank you. We're going to help you guys out any way we can. Let us know anything we can do.
Okay. All right. We'll do. Okay. Well, I really appreciate y'all. All right.
Thank you.